Hey troops, welcome to Dit Commando. My name's Ryan and I'm a former Royal Marines Commando. Today we're going to be reacting to why does the United States spend so much on the military? I guess we're going to find out right now. Let's go. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe,
It shouldn't
guys.
come as a surprise to anyone that the United States has the largest military in the world by far. As of 2019, the US military budget accounted for almost 40% of the entire world's military spending, with the US spending more.
That's astronomical, guys. 40% of the world's spending the US accounted for in terms of military. I mean, just try and get your head around that for a second. And it's grown as well all the time. That's incredible.
More money than the next 10 nations combined. This data comes from a new report by CIPRI. You can find the full document in the description below. The report lays out in detail the accelerated military spending of recent years, including the US's massive jump from just under $700 billion to $738 billion. That increase alone is more than most countries spend on their military budget. But the United States isn't alone. Military spending has been on the rise around the world. As usual, the US is leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. But what's going on here? Why is worldwide military spending increasing? And why does the US spend so much money on theirs?
I guess that's a good question to ask you guys then. Why does military spending go up? And why does the United States spend so much on their military? Let me know in the comments, guys.
With most questions, to answer this one properly, we need to go back in time for a bit of context. After World War II, the United States was in a fairly strong position to assume the title of the world's greatest superpower. Thanks to her geography, the US had been mostly isolated from the conflict abroad. We had done our part in bombing Japanese cities into oblivion, but our own military and industrial hubs were left intact. The war had devastated most of Europe, and this meant that these countries needed to spend huge sums of money to rebuild their shattered cities. The United States had no such problem. The resources we would have spent rebuilding the nation could instead be pumped into the military, strengthening our nation's already powerful forces. This privileged position of not having been nuked or firebombed gave America the chance to become a sort of world police force, defending our allies.
That's a really good way of putting it, actually. They became more of a world police force in the sense of they regulated everything. They made things better. All right, they contained disagreements. And if those disagreements got out of hand, they intervened and used their own force and superiority to be able to calm and de-escalate. It's quite a tactic that's worked throughout the generations for the United States.
From aggressors, allowing them to spend their money on infrastructure rather than their militaries, and deterring enemies from attacking in the first place. With the rapid rebuilding of Russia and the ascendancy of the Soviet Union, suddenly the US had a problem on its hands. A foreign entity bent on taking America's spot as the dominant world power. The Cold War led to a rapid escalation in military spending from both powers, and marked the greatest spending until today. The US and Soviet Union both stocked up on nuclear weapons and spy planes and poured huge sums of money into beating each other in the new arena of spaceflight. Eventually, the Soviet Union dissolved and tensions relaxed. Military spending dropped as world leaders realized that maybe nuclear war is a bad idea. Then in 2001, the US was whipped into a frenzy again with the 9/11 attacks. Popular support for military action skyrocketed, and we kicked off a misguided war on terror that we're still fighting today, at the expense of billions of dollars and far.
Right, just like the war on drugs, has the war on terror worked? I don't think it has, guys. I don't know. I don't think it's like such an open parameter fighting the war on terror. It's like, really, I don't know. I think we've made a dent in it, but has it worked? Has it got longevity in working? I don't think so. There'll always be another bad guy comes around the corner.
Far too many human lives. From 2001 on, with very few exceptions, the US military budget has kept increasing every year. And that's where we get back to the question, why? Our perceived adversaries in the Middle East don't have advanced militaries. So why do we keep upgrading our equipment and buying new fighter jets, helicopters, and submarines? In a word, competition. In recent years, China has exploded onto the world stage as a capable economic and military power. In 1990, China only accounted for 2% of the world's military spending. But by 2018,
yeah, but they're all robotic, aren't they? You know, the way they act and stuff. You know, this military, it's It's a strange one, man.
It had jumped to 14%, the second largest behind the US. That's a massive increase, and the US was spooked. Chinese President Xi Jinping has stated that he wants to fully modernize China's army by the mid-2030s and take their place as a premier world military power by the late 2040s. This goal includes building a military presence that can rival the US. China has already built 2 fully functional aircraft carriers, with another on the way, and invested in top-of-the-line fighter jets and a significant cyber warfare operation. This last part is crucial, because the hyper-modern US military relies on information-enabled equipment, and if China can find a way to remove those advantages, US supremacy goes out the window.
That's a very good point. Cyber warfare can render an entire military useless overnight, given the right information and technology. So it's an important thing to step your game up in the cyber department, guys. It's the future wars will be fought cyber. That's a fact.
Combine the rapid rise of China with the constant threat of old adversaries like Russia, and you can begin to see why the US feels the need to keep increasing its military budget.
Yeah, because you got China and Russia. If they ever came together, then that's arguably bigger than the United States, really, isn't it? Not as good militarily, equipment-wise, but on par economically, which is dangerous.
Return of what's called great power competition, the kind we haven't seen since World War II, has been the spark to ignite this latest wave of worldwide military spending. Unfortunately, this is a self-reinforcing cycle that goes all the way back to at least World War II. The great powers are embroiled in conflict, many are decimated in the process, the US steps in to provide military support for allies and deterrence against enemies, the USSR sees the US as an existential threat and builds up their own military, the US sees this and gets spooked and increases their own spending. This goes back and forth until the Soviet Union collapses. Rinse and repeat with every new perceived threat. But that's not the only problem America's hyper-militarization causes. Having taken on the role of world police for so long, what happens when the US decides to pull out of a region? It leaves a power vacuum that threatens the safety of the entire region because we never...
Yeah, it leaves a hole or a gap for another military outfit to step in its place, which in terms of a power struggle, it's like drugs on the street. One guy moves out, the next guy moves in and owns that territory. So it's definitely a power thing, this.
Never gave those countries a chance to build their own defenses. Other nations that the US is on less than friendly terms with see what happens when the US wants something and will feel the need to build up their own defenses. Diplomacy is used less and less often as we have to justify our massive military budget, which convinces other nations that the US is a threat and prompts them to buff their own militaries, and the cycle continues. Spending large sums of money on a military is not necessarily a bad thing, unless it saps resources from other critical projects like healthcare, which the US does, but that's a topic for another video. The real problem with this worldwide increased spending is that it indicates we have entered another era of violent competition between world powers. When nations build new bombers and nuclear submarines, it's because they intend to have them as an option when the time comes. You can say all militaries are strictly for deterrence, but look around. The US has been fighting a pointless war for almost 20 years, long after it's become apparent that the conflict began under false pretenses. We've dropped atomic bombs on densely...
So is he right for saying that, guys? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and let's have a discussion about it.
Populated cities, firebombed plenty of others, and have come literally one decision from global nuclear war in the past. If war between great powers breaks out, or even between lesser powers with nuclear weapons, that's it. The gloves come off, and the massive militaries the world has built over the last 2 decades will be used to their fullest potential. The US is not alone in its dangerous acceleration of military spending. But as the world's sole superpower, setting an example of nonviolence could go a long way towards ensuring a peaceful future. What do you think? Is the US justified in spending almost $740 billion on weapons of war? Or should the country adjust its priorities? Let us know.
I don't know. I'm going to go with I think they should continue to do it because I'd rather have the United States in the position what they're in than any other country, to be fair, including my own, because we're just not big enough. I'd rather be an ally of the United States than anyone else.
Your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like
let me know your thoughts in my comments, guys.
To learn more about the conflict that launched America to its place as the world's largest superpower, I highly recommend you check out Apocalypse World War II on CuriosityStream. It's a fascinating look.
Right, that's all we're going to have on that one, guys. Why does the United States spend so much on the military? I've found in these videos it doesn't really answer its own question as that much. It'll show us different ways around the question, but it doesn't really fully answer it. So I think personally, why does the United States spend so much money on the military? It's because they've kind of worked their way into a corner of where they've dedicated to something, but now they're kind of obliged. They have to stay there. So world police is no longer something that they were doing to help people out. It's an obligation now. You know, it's they have to do it. It's there. It's ingrained. It's part of their role in the world. Okay, so the budget's that big by default, guys. You know, they couldn't do what they do globally without that kind of budget. Let's be rest assured, no money's going to waste. All right, you can see that money being utilized in its masses right now. 800 plus bases all over the continent, all over the world, and you know, state of the art technological advancements in the military, things that we probably don't even know about yet. So yeah, they have to spend that kind of money, guys. Let me know in the comments though if I'm right, wrong, or on anything, and let's have a chat about it. Yeah, it was a pretty good video. That I liked that. If you liked it, like, share, subscribe. If you want to become a member, press the join button. Go check out my social media links below. Let's get some more followers on Instagram and TikTok, etc., etc. And that's it, guys. I just want to say one last thank you to all of the members on my channel. You guys are genuinely amazing. Thank you, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.